Right now, for explaining example number 2, we're still going to be dealing with the 4 students that I have expressed here initially, but we are dealing with course C2 and its course code of 6 threes, okay? Okay, so going back to this example number 2, um, basically these are the different combinations that we would get based on this example scenario. So it is saying that course C2 has a cap size of 3. We've got 2 students, S1 and S2, that they register in C2. Then simultaneously S3 and S4 try to register in C2 and S2 deregisters. Now the desired outcome of that will depend on who comes first, right? And the actual sequence of events. So we always know that S1 will always register and maintain a spot, okay? And we know that S2 will subsequently register, but then it will, following that, it will at some point deregister. But it depends on its ordering, and that will also impact which of these two would be able to register, or if both of them could register or not. Okay, so these are the 6 different combinations. You can see if S2 happens to deregister at first in these 2 instances, that means that both S3 and S4 would be able to register. Now this red bar indicates that the action here is deregistering a course, and the blue one is showing that there is an attempt or there is a registration. Okay, attempt for registration or registration. Okay, so that means this course is full output will not be, or unable to register will not be shown for either S3 or S4. Now, if it happens that S2 has registered after one of the 2 students, S3 or S4, we know that since the cap size is 3, we maintain a spot for any one of them who comes in first. So there is a spot that it's always empty, and it has to be filled by either of these 2 students. And then when S2 happens to deregister after that, then that means another spot has just emptied, okay, and so that one of these 2 students will be able to register. And so the course's full output again will not be shown to any of the students. Now, the only case where there might be that output showing is that when either the student 2 is deregistering at the end, because this shows that if by the time we fill up the always empty spot here, okay, the time when, if S4 was the second one to register and S2 has not deregistered yet, it means that the course is full, and that will show S4 that the course, or he was unable to register. Now, and this is the same thing if S3 happened to register the second time and S2 did not deregister um, yet. Okay, so these are the different combinations. So I'm gonna go now to Eclipse to show you that these are my cucumber. The cucumber feature, the second scenario, is referring to the example number 2, which is deregistering for course C2. So initially we do have the system up and running, and the clerk has already created the 4 students based on the first scenario, but then the clerk will be logged in again, and then it's going to create course number 2, okay, with this following course code. And then I'm letting student 1 S2 attempting to select this course and register for it indeed, but for S3 and S4 they only get to select the course only. And then they get to race up between they get to race and try to attempt to register for um, um, sorry about that. They try to attempt to register for course number 4, course C2, okay? Excuse me. And at the same time, S2 would be able try to deregister at that time in the same time. So what is the desired outcome? Either student 1 or student 3 or student 4 would be able to register, or both of them, as it was been indicated here by where's the presentation? Over here, the PowerPoint slide. Okay, so let me run this from my test suite. So I'm gonna be running this. And as it's running, we look into the second scenario. over here, and we see all the test cases have passed, and we get into the logs again. So cucumber testing, and we are talking about the deregistering part of things. So right here, this is the attempt only, and now here we get to have what? We get to have that the response by attempting to register by S3 happens to be a success, because we know that if that the first person, either S3 or S4, who happens to try to register will always maintain a spot. But for and now here for deregistration by S2, it happens to be a success, and that's what's expected. And then the response for attempting to register by S4, we expect it also to be a success, because deregistration by S2 has already happened. So there is an empty spot that could be filled up by S4. Okay, you could ignore these small debug statements. I'm not sure why they show up, but they are in regards to log4j for some reason. Anyways, so we're just gonna delete this, and then we're gonna go and rerun the tests, okay? So we did tackle these two, right? This and this one. So now let's hope we get S2 to deregister in the first time. Okay, so we did cover one combination, and now here, let's see the response. Okay, cool. So now we are talking about S2, this one, these two combinations basically. It's about S2 deregistering at the end. And there you go. So the response for attempting to register by S4, it was indeed a success, because as I mentioned, there is always an empty spot that has to be filled by either any of the two students. But since S2 did not deregister yet, S3 will get this output that they are unable to register for the course. And then, yeah, so that's the second attempt. Now let me do it for the third attempt. Okay, actually, yeah, we can do it for the third attempt. And if we scroll down, there you go. Now these are the three responses in that I don't see, oh, there it is. I think it's up. Yeah. Oh, cool. So S2 here, so I'm tackling this one. It's that when S2 is, I'm talking about, so I'm getting this one. It's that when S2 is deregistering at first. Okay, so I did cover almost all the combinations now. So the response for attempting to deregister by S2, so he happened to deregister at first, so both of these are able to register, okay? So what is the response I get by for attempting to register by S3? It is indeed a success, and the same goes for S4, and it's indeed a success. Now let me do it for the fourth time, just because these are the requirements. Okay, and right here, so I'm just scrolling to the bottom to see the responses. Right here, I see that S3 has registered first, so it got the spot. Then deregistration happening, so this one basically. Deregistration happening, and then S4 will manage to, as it mentions here, success to register, okay? Now let's do it for the last time. Okay. You can see here that the response to attempting, okay, so this is similar. So this is basically this one. Oh, actually, no, this one. S4 registering first, and it happens to get it. S2 deregistering, and then S3 will happen to get it. So S2 deregistering, then S3 is registering by a success output. Yeah, so this is it for part 2, example number 2.